And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming by the Critical Blast station. We have a very special guest with us tonight. We have somebody who creates something near and dear to my heart, and that is comic books. And I've got a whole stack of these things to go through. Now, our guest has created a superhero comic, and as you might say, those are a dime a dozen these days. Well, they're more like a dime a half dozen these days because there are fewer good ones out there. And this one is unique, quirky, crazy, and as you will see, very special and reminiscent of something we used to have. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest tonight is Mr. Ted Sakura of Hero Tomorrow Comics. Ted, welcome to the Critical Blast Show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So the book in question, the main book, I guess the book that's run the longest, is of course Apama, the Undiscovered Animal. And the first thing I have to ask when I read this title, first thing I asked when I did read the title, way back when it was first released, was how did you come up with a new animal name for an undiscovered beast?
Oh, yeah. Well, way back, before I ever got into comics, I was really into music, and we had a band, and this was just a covers band back in like the 90s, actually 80s, late 80s. And we were trying to think of a name for the band, and I just was playing with letters, and this was before you could kind of just Google stuff, So Apama, I just liked the way it looked, whatever that was. I showed it to the band. They hated the idea, and it was just put into my folder full of ideas for future reference, And when years later, my friend Milo Miller and I were writing a feature film, and in it, the main character needed to create a superhero. It's about a struggling comic book creator called Hero Tomorrow is the name of the film. And we needed an idea for his hero. So I'm going through my old stack of idea things, which I highly recommend to anybody trying to do anything like this. You just, anytime you have an idea, no matter how lame it might seem, just write it down. Doesn't cost you anything. And then when you need an idea, you got a ton of them. So there it was, Apama, and I just started thinking, wow, what if that was like an animal? And this animal had never been discovered by mankind. And our guy is, he unlocks the spirit force of this creature. And just as, as Spider-Man is to spiders, Apama is to Apamas. And that was part of the humor of the movie. It's a dark comedy that he's explaining a superhero based on an animal that doesn't exist.
And that's, you mentioned Spider-Man, and right off the bat, you've given away my biggest talking point.
Okay.
Because there is so much Lee and Ditko running through this character and this story arc, in that, it's not just that he has an animal ability that he can utilize, but, Ilya's, his life, his romances, his ups and downs, he's a superhero who has a crap civilian life. He's always broke. His job sucks, and yet he can do all these crazy, wonderful things that even now he's still discovering what he can do. Was that a conscious decision of any kind to say, "Hey, we need a bohemian Peter Parker"?
Yeah, we really kind of at one point we were talking about like Peter Picar, Yeah, I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, and Milo and I both, cut our teeth on 70s Bronze Age stuff. So we wanted to do something that felt like it kind of belonged to that era, but also was really a modern tale, because I think you see a lot of times these retro books, and they kind of spoof that genre or whatever. They'll spoof the 60s or something. They don't take it really seriously. Like we are deadly serious about it, and it's just sort of the approach of, I feel like those comics are the best comics that have ever been made, and why not sort of take the stuff we love from that era and try to do it in a modern way.
And one of the things I love about all of the 11 issues I've read is that you have single issue stories or two-part stories while still maintaining a continuous thread of a narrative here. This is not a 12-part, we're going to put it in the graphic novel later, did you miss a chapter, too bad, we're moving on kind of story. You can pick up almost anywhere in here and follow along with Ilya's adventures and what's happening to it.
Yeah, the other thing we wanted to do was build a rogues gallery, and looking at the first 20 issues of Spider-Man or the Fantastic Four, there's so many great characters that are introduced. And that was something that we just, wanted to sort of, not just start out with some big long arc between one hero and one villain. Like issue 2, you get the first villain. Issue 3, you get the next one. Issue 5, we introduce the nemesis, much like Doctor Doom was introduced in issue 5 of the Fantastic Four. And, that's more fun for me and Milo, just writing, that we kind of have this, episodic kind of quality to it.
Now, as much as I talk about how it's like Spider-Man, there's one more hero that this truly reminds me of. Insofar as how Ilya found the costume and found the cape, I'm thinking this is just one subway tunnel and a wizard away from being the Captain Marvel story in a way, because he's lost in the woods that he normally knows his way around, and he chases this guy into a cave that is a bizarre looking Native American kind of person, and in there he finds the costume and the map of the animals, so to speak, telling the story of what an Apama is and how it's been undiscovered for so long by mankind. And he gets the information that if he can, do the pose or whatever it is, that he can then channel and connect to that energy. Again, idea processes. You've got a guy striking a pose instead of saying a magic word, and it's not an easy pose. It's a very Ditko-esque pose. It's Doctor Strange's finger movements here that we got to get in.
The thing.
Why did
I mean, the thing I think that's interesting about our origin, a lot of heroes kind of they blunder into something or something happens to them. Like, he earns it, he goes to near insanity because he thinks this might work out for him, trying to make this pose possible. The scroll, just in case it wasn't quite clear, the scroll he finds in the cave reveals that if you can put your body into this exact pose down to like a micro fraction of a inch, you will unlock the spirit force. So our guy Ilya is doing this, over the course of months. So yeah, he finally does it, and so in that way, his origin, I think, is kind of unique in that it's earned. I never really had thought about the Captain Marvel thing, and I wasn't really a DC reader, so I'll have to read that first story. I don't think I've ever even read it.
Well, I'm going all the way back to the Fawcett days too. I mean,
sure.
Billy Batson knows the subways, but suddenly he's lost in one that he's never seen before, and it's a magical one that has information. I
saw the movie and I didn't make that connection, but you're right. There are definitely similarities.
Now, obviously, the issues I'm looking at here are reissues, because that was not an ad when number 1 first came out. So how far back are we looking at for when the Apama first got published?
Let's see. We did things really odd. Okay, again, we came from the film side, and the movie's playing film festivals. We're longtime comic fans, and a lot of people who saw the movie were saying, the Apama idea is really unlike anything that they had seen in comics, and maybe we should think about doing a comic of it. So again, our movie's about this guy who's a struggling comic book creator, but we wanted to do the story of the book he would have told. So it's not about our main guy. Like Hero Tomorrow, the movie, is kind of like if this is an analogy I use a lot that I'm not worthy of, but it explains it. If Stanley's girlfriend had made him a Spider-Man suit, and instead of publishing Spider-Man, he himself ran around dressed like Spider-Man, that would be like the movie Hero Tomorrow. Okay. A Spider-Man comic book then would be, in that analogy, like an Apama comic. This is the book that he would have published. So then we created this ice cream truck driver who actually is, by day, this down on his luck kind of dude who unlocks the spirit force of the Apama. Where were we going? What was the question? I know I kind of got off track.
Years. What year did we all start?
Years. Okay, right. So the movie, it came out in 2006 is when it debuted at Comic-Con International. Then we did issue 1 just digitally on our website, and that came out in about 2009. So the book, this issue 1, got a lot of really nice press, a lot of good reviews, and we're like, man, this was nice. We didn't have to do any casting. We didn't have to find locations. We did whatever we wanted in this comic book. It was liberating as heck. So we decided to keep doing comics and just doing them digitally. When we got to issue 5, we felt like we'd reached the end of our first arc, and that's when we decided to do our first printed edition. So we did a Kickstarter, raised about $14,000, and we did Apama Volume 1, loaded with extras. And that came out, I want to say 2005-ish. Actually, I got one here. I can tell you. Over here. This is the hardcover of Volume 1 of Apama. We do sell all this stuff on our website, by the way, herotomorrow.com. 2015. I don't know what I said, 2005 to 2015. Yeah. Okay. So then Volume 2, we spent 2 years doing Volume 2, but we decided to release it also kind of as a collection. So we didn't do any single issues, not digital or anything. This came out, Volume 2, and that was probably 2017. And so there wasn't really like this first appearance single issue of any of these characters along the way. And then I might be getting ahead of where you're going with it, but go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just thinking, you talked about how it was a movie about a comic book, and then this is the comic book out of the movie. And within the comic book that came out of the movie, there's a movie about a comic book. You can think back that far. And one of my favorites from the late 80s, Flaming Carrot.
A little higher. Yep, there he is, Flaming Carrot. So, yeah, Apama blunders onto the movie set of Flaming Carrot, the movie. Now, Bob Burton's a good friend. We met him making the movie. He actually donated comics for the comic shop scenes. In fact, right behind me is the Bob Burton pinup that is in the Apama Volume 1, and it's got Apama with Flaming Carrot. So, yeah.
Very nice, very nice. As you said, you started introducing villains and monsters, and with issue number 2, you didn't waste any time. You got this guy who can throw lawnmower blades around. He is not running ahead. And the Lawnmower Man, I love it. And the Roswell rods. I mean, you're digging into some deep conspiracy theory UFO stuff.
Right?
Pull those out.
Yeah. I don't know where I'd first seen this. And it was people on their video cameras were seeing these little flashes go by, and it was just puzzling everybody, like, what are these things, and they were convinced there could be some kind of alien bugs or something. And I thought, man, alien bugs. So yeah, our lawnmower guy, he's a landscaper. He's cutting the lawn on this science facility, crashes into one of their domes because he falls asleep and blunders into this, unleashing the hive of the Roswell rods, and then they see him as their queen. They basically do his bidding. So if he throws something in the air, these alien bugs can keep it spinning. And so he goes out and that second issue of Apama, it's basically like a suburban brawl between a hero and a villain that barely know their own powers.
Yeah, because they're both very street level. There's nothing cosmic going on yet with any of these characters.
No.
Other than the fact that there's obviously some deep animal magic going on here. And I have to wonder if the Apama, going back to issue 1, you tell the story of how all the animals got together, and there's the myth of how they said, we're going to battle to see who's the most supreme. And of course, the Apama comes in at the last second and kicks the lion's butt and says, our prize is we want you to leave us all alone. We don't want anybody to know about us. You let him be the king, and we'll go on our merry way.
Right.
But apparently, somewhere along the line, someone did discover the Apama because there is the ancient figure in the cave
Right.
channeling the power. Is that a story yet to come on how the
Yes. Yes.
undiscovered became discovered?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, well we'll be watching for that.
Mm.
Now I talk about how the characters are quirky and kind of goofy sci-fi kind of thing, and you don't get more goofy sci-fi than Tentacle Monsters from the Moon.
Right. This was also based on something. Well, I don't know how I can say also based on something real, comparing it to the older stuff. But we did actually bomb the moon. Like it was a big controversy right around that. Um, did you remember the story?
I do remember the story. Looking for water.
They were looking for water. Yeah, so they actually bombed. NASA bombed the moon, and we just took that one step further. They woke something up in the moon, and a sort of creepy tentacled brained ghost monster. The million-year hunger is what we've come to affectionately refer to it as.
Now, of course, there's two of them that leave the
Oh,
moon.
yes, good eye. Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, where's the other one? Because
Exactly. Yeah. See, so that's the nice thing about I think this approach. We can drop seeds for future stories, and it just seems like we're never at a loss for what to do next because we can come back to the Lawnmower Man's actually about to come back in issue 12 here for the first time, and yeah, the other Million Year Hunger is out there, and it's got a real reason to hate Apama.
of course, Apama killed its mate. So.
Yes.
Now, the best villains, of course, get their own books.
Yeah, truly.
And you said that number 5 brings us the nemesis, which is Regina.
Regina.
And she's this tattooed hippie covered. Now, I'm gonna have to. Is the Apama taking place in the year 2020, or
let's say it's contemporary, because this has come out over years. It's modern day. I'm not going to put a year on it because it takes us a year to put out 2 issues or something.
Sure. Regina looks good for her age.
Thank you.
I mean, because we find out a little bit later about her 1960s experiences, and here she is in modern day, looking just as much of a hippie chick as she did then.
Right. So she must have figured something out about aging. Yes.
Which we can only guess at, and she marks Apama, and we're still figuring out what that's done to him, whether it's hampered him, held him back, put him in thrall to her. It's done something to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely repels anybody who sees this chest tattoo that she's carved into him. So I'm really interested in seeing about that. But the thing about this villain is he doesn't capture her. He runs away from her.
Yeah, she's pretty bad news, and he just wants to get the hell away. He feels like that was that he'll put that in the win column after the way it started. Yes.
Yeah, so a survival was a win. But the thing about Regina is that she did. If I can bring up the picture I want to bring up here, share the screen a little bit. She's got her own book coming now, and this is Bloom #1.
Correct.
And,
yeah.
Butch, is that Mappa or Mappa?
Mappa. Yeah,
and this is going to be the secret origin of
Regina. Yeah, the 1969 story where she becomes this, how she blooms into this beautiful villain.
We've got a couple of different covers here, it looks like.
Yep, that one's Benito Gallego. He's the Pama artist. And Benito's got such a classic style. I really wanted one that felt like, it almost had that 60s vibe. I don't know if you can get to the bottom part of it where we've got the guy with his girlfriend, and she's got the sort of classic caption. I could also hold it up here, but that's fine. And that one was done by Butch.
One more click. Come on. There we go. Yeah. yeah, she's like, she's giving me the creeps. Ramsey, Ramsey. It's very much of like a House of Secrets, House of Mystery.
Right on, right on. I love those old covers. I buy those in the cheap bins just because of the covers, and I just have them sitting around my studio. I find those old story covers so inspiring. I absolutely love them.
We don't have that many covers these days that take advantage of the word balloon anymore. They're all like posters.
Yeah. I think it's really, unfortunately, sort of just a lost art. I think because like now they do so many covers, and they just know that if they have a generic pinup of a character, they can use it almost anywhere in any issue, and they don't have to do as much planning. But
Exactly.
if you get the story down, and you know what, I that's why still to this day when I'm going through the Comic Cons, that 70s, 60s stuff just pops off the racks. You see a cover and it's like, damn, I want to know what's going on in that story. But just a generic shot of a character. I've got so many comics where I'm like, I could go back through my long boxes and I'm like, man, I don't know what's going on in any of these books. There's no reason for me to pull them back out unless I really want to go scavenging, which I really just don't have time for. But I still do pull out the old ones where I can just see that cover. I know that story.
Now, I find this interesting given the story you told about the origin of Apama and the movie, being that it's a movie about a comic book writer who makes a comic book, and here's the comic book. This is a comic book about a comic book writer.
Yes.
And it impacts the reality of Apama because he's doing this body tattoo for a villain, and he's doing it all on this mannequin. And if we've read Apama now, we recognize these are the tattoos that Regina has on her body.
Correct. Yeah.
And he's obsessing over these because they came to him in a dream. And when he goes out with his friends and sees Regina dancing with her band, he makes this offer. I don't think I'm spoiling anything here because it's in the.
It'll be in the preview that's coming out this week, so we're good.
But yeah, he sees her dancing and he's taken aback by her. And gosh, your interior artist here is very, very good.
Yeah, I love his stuff. We looked at. I had put out an ad for both series. So at the time, Tap Dance Killer and Bloom, I wanted to do, get both of them going. And 200 people from all over the world, either, applied, or then I think like another 40 I did tryouts with. And these were the final two, Butch Mappa for Bloom and Donny Hadiwijawa for Tap Dance Killer.
Well, now when is you said the preview's coming out this week? When is the actual book for Bloom going to be appearing?
Well, that's a great question. It's
given that the coronavirus has put us all on hold. Yeah.
It's in the. I just put a half-page ad in the current preview guide. So issue 1 is being solicited in the preview guide that came out tomorrow. It comes out tomorrow, and no orders are going to be taken. Yeah. So, I don't know what to do. Really, I just don't have an answer. Unfortunately, it's really a shame because we've been working on this thing for 3 years. But I know it'll happen because Regina, as much as she is a character, she feels like a real entity, and I'm not even kidding. Like, there's something about this character that her story will be told in the way it's meant to be told, and it'll come out when it's supposed to.
Well, given how Apama's powers all come from this mystical realm, it makes sense that his opposite number would have powers the same way. I'm sure this mystical realm is reaching out to this artist and orchestrating events to have Regina come into her power.
Yep.
And I can't ask for any more questions because I know it's spoiler territory.
Yeah, we should leave it. Yeah, we've said too much. Yeah, we're all good.
So we'll just move on to the next villain that is introduced because again, it's one villain after another. Not here's a villain. And to quote a famous writer, have the hero stare out the window at the rain for 6 issues. And it's the Ruster. Now we've met him throughout the previous issues because we know that some oil executive employee is sick from doing his job, but now we see the impact of the accident here, and he's got the ability to corrode things.
Yeah, and this was also based on the the oil spill in the Gulf. We decided to put that in, and then somebody was down in, this is an issue too. He's down there trying to cap the well, but it just keeps deteriorating the cap, and the substance kind of oozes into him. Everybody thinks he dies because it's of the pressure underwater, but then he washes up on the beach, and then we have the ultimate rust belt villain, the ruster.
Exactly, and I love that it that's his power. So he rusts metal, but in a fight, he's got a glass jaw. He can take a punch and get thrown away. So the police take him away and they just lock him in prison. And he's like, however, will I get out of this iron cage?
Yeah, right.
So the second part, which is still its own encapsulated story, actually tells the story on the cover of what's going to happen in the book.
There you go.
They're just
Yes.
congratulating him on the fight, and they're saying, "Oh, says the paper, he just broke out, and here's his car going over the bridge."
Yeah, now that was Tony Isabella is a good friend, and he, he's been a big supporter of Apama, and he loves that we're doing this sort of retro style. And he goes, what you got to do? You got to do one of these. We're all clear covers. It's a classic thing we used to do, where the characters are in the foreground and everything's great, but in the background there's this looming disaster. Like, oh, we got a perfect moment for that coming up anyway. So, yeah, I got to thank Tony for that one.
Before I dig too much further into this, I got to say that Ilya is probably one of the luckiest unlucky guys I've ever seen.
Okay.
Because from issue 1 to 7, he's got Vika, who's just not really paying him much attention, and suddenly the animal magnetism kicks in, and she can't get enough of him.
Right.
He really creeps her out. And then we've got Trina,
Yeah.
who he doesn't think enough about to take his mask off for. So he's going to tell me who he is now, and he's like, "Well, gotta go. See you later."
Yeah. Yeah. Ilya's not. He's just one of the things I like about him. And when I'm selling him or differentiating him on the convention floor, yeah, he's like Spider-Man. This is like Spider-Man, but this guy is not brilliant like Peter Parker. I mean, he is not at all. He's based on guys I used to change tires with in my dad's shop. He had a tire store for many years, and you get to know these dudes. They're a lot of fun, and I just didn't feel like there was a character kind of like that in the superhero world that I'd ever come across. So, yeah, and he's just he's not good with women, and it's all trouble for Ilya.
He's got no game.
No game.
For sure. And some of the other things about Ilya, first of all, he's Hungarian, which is something that doesn't really get played up until much deeper into the book. So that's an ethnicity that you don't necessarily see in superheroes. And not only is he Hungarian, but his alter ego is not, the Red Hungarian or anything even remotely related to his ethnicity.
No. And then again, growing up in Cleveland, the person across the street was Croatian. 2 doors down, my 4 best friends were from, their families were from Italy, England, Germany, Croatia. So I just, and my roots are Slovak. I didn't want to make it too self-referential. So I thought, I've met a bunch of Hungarian people through the years, and they're always they've been characters in my life. So I thought, I'll draw from that a bit.
And of course, he does have friends now that he's got his Apama powers, and turns out that it's through his power that he can speak to animals. The unfortunate thing is that animals aren't all that smart either. So,
right. A lot of frustration for him.
Yeah, he tries to get assistance from them, and the only one that can talk sense is his rat, and you can't trust the rat because she just wants to be let out of the cage all the time, and
right.
Sorry to make a mess of the house, but I do like later on that he meets a few smarter animals. In fact, one smart enough that he actually ends up being the sidekick to
Hawk.
Hawk the pigeon, this Goodfellas pigeon.
Yes.
You want information? Yeah, you got popcorn? I'll take. Yeah, I got your information. Give me some popcorn.
Right on.
And that's what pretty much happens in this non-villain story, but it's still a very your friendly neighborhood Apama kind of story, where
Sure.
people are being
Yeah.
torn literally out of their houses because people are tearing the pipes out of their houses. We've all heard of these scrappers that uh, take copper pipes off your air conditioning vents and out of your house and leave you holding the bag. And you got all these old people residents who come back home and find their houses destroyed, and they've got nothing left. Uh, Again, from the headlines, I'm assuming.
Uh, yeah, it actually hit one of our, well, when my father-in-law passed away, his house was left vacant for a while and it got hit. And so, yeah, that sort of sparked the idea. It was a bit therapeutic as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that, you'd probably want to do to them what Apama ended up doing.
Yeah, I'm a little more of a pacifist, but
Yeah,
it wouldn't bother me a bit.
even a pacifist, family's family,
All right, right, right.
and it strikes a chord. Um, and then 4 issues later, we're back to seeing Regina again because, like I said, he didn't finish that business, still hasn't finished that business,
No.
but she definitely wants to finish business with him, and sets him up to look um, like a killer. And she does it in front of a stadium full of people whom she's been drugging with psychotropic airborne pathogens. So they're all whipped up into a frenzy. He's lucky to get out with his life on this one because they're just seeing monsters, and
Yes.
he can't beat any of them.
Yeah, and I gotta give extra kudos to Benito Gallego. I asked him up front, I'm like, hey, if we made a story that took place at a stadium full of people at a baseball game, would you quit? you know, but he was really game. Benito, all these guys. I mean, this whole team, I'm so proud of. They've become such great friends, and I can't say enough about it. It's really, I talk to a lot of creators on the con circuit, and I just over and over feel so blessed to be working with, of course Milo, but Benito, Donnie, Butch. We've had the inker Chis Ariswenda and David Baff Gallard has helped with coloring and things too.
You can see that it's a team effort, that everybody is doing a great job on this. There's a reason why one of your titles got nominated last year for our best comic book series and best writer and best artist of the year. And while we've had nominations before that have all coalesced around a single event, this was the first time that all three awards went to the same book. 2 years ago, DC Comics got a triple play because, one of their books and one of their writers and one of their artists, but it wasn't a team thing. And this was the first time that the entire team, writer, artist, and title of the same book,
united the titles.
It definitely united the titles, and that is the character that appears in these last 2 issues. One of these cases, I think, where your hero has finally started to outshine the villain as far as popularity goes, and that is Tap Dance Killer.
Righto. Yes, Nikki St. Clair. She's a mega talented actor who gets cast in a horror show musical as that character, the Tap Dance Killer, but then she can't shake the role and starts trying to rub out the mafia. So she gets involved with Ilya. On the relationship side, she actually invites him to come audition. So he's in the same show. Ilya being frustrated with his whole getting his ass kicked by Regina every few issues and decides to maybe I'll just join the theater troupe here. But then it goes no better for poor Ilya.
Yeah, and Nikki St. Clair being the third romantic interest for
yes, yeah.
in so many books, and it lasts probably the shortest as well.
True that. Yes.
Because there's this mystical event that happens that transforms her and the other characters in the musical into not only thinking that they're still the characters in the musical, but actually being capable of doing what the characters in the musical do. And let's just talk about that now, because Tap Dance Killer, first 5 issues are collected in this really, really beautiful looking hardcover book. This is some quality book here, people. So hit Amazon up for this one. It's well worth it.
No, herotomorrow.com. That's
HeroTomorrow.com.
yes.
Of course, I'm defaulting to Amazon whenever I say any kind of book. Yes, buy directly from HeroTomorrow.com. Save yourself some money. Skip the middleman. Look at this gorgeous art from Nicholas Harrison. This is just fantastic stuff.
And it will be signed as well if you buy it from our website.
All the more reason to do so. So, like I said, the best villains are the ones that spin out into their own books. This kind of goes over the origin a little bit in the very first issues, but I love the title of the Vaudevillains, because what else would you be if you were in vaudeville but a vaudevillain?
Yeah.
I just love the theme of it.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, so, and this is from a musical that my brother and I wrote back in the 90s. We actually had a rock band, and I had written sort of like this story around a bunch of the songs, and we were called Nothing Like Vaudeville. And Tap Dance Killer was one of the songs. And then years later, well, it had been going through iterations, but had the idea to bring the villains from the musical to life in a Apama. So there is an actual song. Have you heard the song?
I can't say that I probably have.
I should. I wonder if we can work that in. I could send it to you all. I will send it to you, and perhaps you can put it on the end of this or something.
Yeah, definitely. We can work something out on it.
Okay.
I have to download it and re-upload it. I can do that. That's not a big deal.
Okay.
That happened. So gosh, these specifically these kind of villains and a rock musical. Have you ever seen a musical called Repo, the Genetic Opera?
I do know of it. Yes, I have, and I've seen at least parts of it. Yeah.
Nothing like this, but I think you would like it just based off the concepts and themes.
Right on.
So you might check that out. But yeah, again, it's not so much that I think I'm the tap dance killer and Klaus now thinks he's the Frankensteinian can bring people back from the dead thing. He can actually bring people back from near death and turn them into creatures, which is not, something a butcher normally knows how to do at the grocery store. So there's something more behind whatever these guys got whammied with.
Yeah. In issue 4, we got into a little more about how Klaus is, what his journey, he becomes locked into the headspace of this character that can animate the dead. But then, Nikki goes to jail, Sir Terror goes to the hospital, and he's sort of left on his own with that, I have to animate the dead, and he's just searching and searching, and then he goes down to Mexico and finds this couple that have this a way for him to sort of unlock that.
Yeah, and of course he practices on a cat, and it works great on the cat, so why not save his ex-wife? And turns out what works for cats works for people, and then you have Lizzie, who's very kind of cat-like.
There's nothing intentional about that, but that's interesting that you mentioned that. No, I mean, yeah, it's Lizzie, and Lizzie I think is going to get some kind of spin-off too.
Oh, joy. I love that. Not close, not close.
Yeah. What I like about the Vaudevillains is, and what I'm thinking of doing is sort of something where I can change the lead character every time or every few issues or something. So that's something I'm thinking about going forward.
Well, Lizzie came in, I want to say about issue 3, maybe. Yeah, issue 3 I think is about right.
She's in all of them actually, but in the first one she's just in the straitjacket. In the second one, she's showing off power to Punchline or Drayton Hayes.
Yeah, and they think she's attacking them, and she's like, "I wasn't close. It was not close."
Yeah, right.
Stopped right at the edge of his nose. No, I wasn't close at all. Which to her it wasn't, because she has such absolute mastery of, close, not close, and all the way through.
Yeah, right.
And of course, you had to know this was coming. This next thing I'm bringing up now.
Okay.
At the end of issue 1, the Vaudevillains expand their troupe from beyond just the team that they were on the stage, and we have a clown-themed gangster hitman named Punchline.
Damn straight. 2018.
2018 in print, mind you.
April.
So you've got to be thinking now when another company puts out another character, also by the same name with the same theme, that there's something to be done here. Maybe have there been any talks between you and the Distinguished Competition?
There have not, and I probably just can't really say too much about it right now.
Understood. I figured that. I just didn't know if there was something to be done, not specifically what the thing was.
What could be done? Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, you said it, so I will leave it at that.
Okay. I would think that should the Distinguished Competition wish to start doing things like action figures and book titles, that you would probably have a stronger discussion, or want to have a stronger discussion. I certainly would. I happen to know a guy who's been through this and actually won a case against Image Comics because they had a title out with a registered little trademark on it that was almost, but not quite, similar to a title that he had actually registered trademark, and he won. So the big guys can back down sometimes. And of course, Punchline is not the only character they've added. They added Uzi Clown. I got to say, I don't think a lot of thought went into his name there, Ted. He's a clown.
He's got an Uzi. Yeah, he's got a backstory coming too. I don't know if he'll get his own series, but
It's like Hand Grenade Man in The Tick. Oh, what's your power? Got a hand grenade.
Yeah, fair enough.
But still, throughout the whole thing, there's some great storytelling in here, because the mob is after the vaudevillains. Because the best kind of villains are the ones that go after bad guys. Thanks. They're not holding up liquor stores. They're not, shaking down corners. They're villains, but they're heroes because of who they target.
There you go.
The mob family. And it's a very intricate story here, where it's one of revenge. You killed my boy. Only it's a female godfather.
Yes, Carlotta.
And she takes it back hard to the vaudevillains and really puts them in crisis. I mean, Sir Terror is put into a place of family despair. Nikki is her family is now at risk because they figured out who everybody is. They save a baby from a bombing, and now they're responsible for raising it. These psychotic, monster-making, this Addams family of crime now has this normal human child that they have to do something with.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of just what you hear something on the news, and it just you kind of think, man, I want to ground these stories, because the characters can be so outlandish, but I want to ground them. One of my goals is that you believe the world, despite the insanity. There's so many touches of realism, which is also a tribute to Donnie's art, or Benito's or Butch's, that I always found as a fan, when they do Spider-Man in a way where he looks very kind of graffiti art, or a little distorted, or too cartoony, it's just too much crazy for me. Like, I like when I see Peter Parker represented like a real dude. The world looks real, but the weirdness is Spider-Man. Like, that's almost like this perfect blend, I should say. But when it's all weird, it doesn't. There's nothing to pull me in.
Yeah, I understand that. It doesn't. You want the superhero to stand out from the daily life stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I mean,
the daily life stuff that does pull me in for Spider-Man stories, because
absolutely, it's an argument I have a lot of, Spider-Man versus Batman. Okay, we can certainly have a big argument about who's a more interesting hero. I would still argue Spider-Man, but if we talk about Peter Parker versus Bruce Wayne, I mean, I think Bruce Wayne, aside from his sort of childhood tragedy, I just think the character is a snooze, and I'm sorry, I know it's going to offend a lot of DC people, but I mean, Peter Parker's got this stuff going on with his aunt, with Harry. Jameson. There is so much richness to that. You can go on so many tangents. And with Batman, I just don't see the supporting cast. I don't find him interesting. I don't find Bruce Wayne interesting. Batman, I think, is great.
Well, I think it goes back to something I heard a long time ago, and I'm not the originator of this, but to explain the difference between the flavor of Marvel heroes versus DC heroes, and that was that DC is superheroes trying to be people, and Marvel is people trying to be superheroes.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
And that just kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
The last page here of Tap Dance Killer, issue 5, it says Finis. I'm hoping that doesn't mean that this was a mini-series, but there's got to be more to come on this.
There's more to come, absolutely.
So it's going to be 6, 7, 8, not Tap Dance Killer 2, Volume 1, 2, 3, or?
No, I'm, like I said, I'm sort of weighing a few things as far as like, would it make sense to let the team kind of have something? Because I do want to, we're a small company, and I have only so many resources. I would love to let a lot of these characters kind of have their own thing. So, yeah, I'm just debating right now whether it continues with Tap Dance Killer 6 or it continues as a vaudevillain something.
Okay. Now, one of the other things about Tap Dance Killer that I've been seeing more of in this title than I did in Apama, and maybe we'll see it in Regina, is, of course, you actually have a Tap Dance Killer. Tell us about this young lady.
That is Josie Jones. And when we were debuting the Apama Volume 2 collection, there was an event, Fashion Week Cleveland invited us to be part of it. And I don't know how it came about, but they said, hey, do you want to do anything with Fashion Week Cleveland with your comics? I said, oh, we'd love to do this Tap Dance Killer character. I'll have somebody design a costume. And then we ran a contest to see who would best play her, to portray her. And it was a friend of Josie's who recommended her because he felt that she looked a lot like Nikki St. Clair. And it turns out Josie's background is she's a theater actor. Like her backstory is, Cleveland, it is the exact same as Nikki St. Clair. So she does a lot of shows with us. And yeah, she's been a really great person to represent the character on that whole other level.
That's great when you can find somebody to cosplay the character and actually have her embody the character.
Right. It's very much the Hero Tomorrow theme, where characters become the characters that they were only meant to play, and
If anybody walks up to her at a convention with a drink, slap it out of her hand.
No, but she's already there.
Because there's only so many levels of meta that I can take happening.
Oh, and there's a story about Bloom that goes so, it's about a comic book creator. There's very much some autobiographical stuff in Bloom. So this one gets really meta, but I have to save that for sort of the extra in the collection of Bloom, I think.
So you're growing out all these titles, trying to keep them on a schedule, I'm sure. It had to be hard enough with Apama, doing 2 issues a year, you said you were pulling off there?
Yeah, I guess so. We had 3 probably 3 a year, I think is what we were doing.
Okay. Then you expanded out to Tap Dance Killer, still doing the Apama titles.
Well, so that was the weird thing. And we had never released Apama in single issue form. So we did Tap Dance Killer, and I we'd always had this model that I think we had this fear of single issues, like, oh, it would just be too expensive. We're not comic book guys to begin with. So we thought we are now, yeah, but we decided to just take, if we're going to do the single issues with Tap Dance Killer, why don't we go back and sort of remaster Apama and put it out in single issue form for the first time? So that's why, like, issue 1 of Apama, on the back of it has an ad for Tap Dance Killer 1, even though chronologically they would not be together. So this, Apama 1, then, I got it right here. This is the single issue first appearance of Apama. We do have the collections, but people don't really collect collections in that way. So I guess we were able to put out more Apamas than we would have been able to because they had already been produced. So I was putting them out every month or every other month to get caught up. So issue 12 of Apama was just solicited last preview guide, and I don't know what's going to happen with those orders or when those will ever come out. But that's got Lloyd Kaufman in it. It's a really crazy story.
Timing is everything, isn't it?
Oh, it's brutal. I mean, that's we could spend a whole show just talking about what's going to happen with the industry now. You know, I just don't really know. I mean, I'm kind of I'm so grateful to the stores who have, you know, taken a chance on our stuff and put us out there. You know, there's digital platforms, and I mean, is DC and Marvel, are they going to still produce digital content while the strike? Not, it's not a strike, while the shutdown is going on.
Like a strike, but
no, it's not. Yeah,
that's a very good question. I know I've seen a lot of people. I'm looking away from the camera because I'm looking for something specific that happened in almost every damn issue, and now I can't find one that has it happening in it.
Okay.
But I keep hearing all this noise about, hey, you know, buy digitals to keep these people in business and keep us fed while we're not putting out paper. And I'm like,
it's not fair to the stores, though. Like that hurts the stores coming back, I think.
I think so, too, especially after we've heard for, you know, months and months that, you know, the stores are the actual customer. Well, go to your customer and sell them your digital copies. I don't know. I can be kind of bitter about that kind of thing. Here we go. This was very old school Marvel, I thought, and it was a fun thing that you had in the letters pages, the caption scrambler.
Oh yeah,
where you would take a panel from the book, but replace the word balloon with a different word balloon from somewhere else in the book, and you just totally out of context, bizarro frame that was hilarious to watch, especially after having just read the book. I mean, if you hadn't read it, it probably wouldn't be as funny, but.
Well, it was kind of something that happened by accident because, you know, when I'm doing the lettering, you know, you kind of just maybe start with, well, I'll just grab these captions from this page, I'll paste it on, and then I'll just rewrite the captions, resize them instead of starting from scratch. And one time when I did that, the caption that landed on the page was so funny. I don't remember which one it was, but that's what kind of started that. And yeah, we've gotten away from it, but now that I know you like it, I'll bring it back.
All right. See, that's the power of fan feedback, people. Right? Let people know what you like.
Right on.
And now, of course, you're expanding out with Bloom. Since that's a origin story and going back in the past, is that going to be like a graphic novel, a miniseries, catch up to where time to going?
Yeah, it was originally intended to be a graphic novel. I didn't think of doing single issues, but then it was around the same time again we were doing Tap Dance Killer as single issues for the first time, and I now realize how valuable the single issue you know, presentation release is. And I've had a lot of people in the industry explain different benefits to me. You know, it's like a movie going straight to DVD before it gets its sort of theatrical release, you know. So I think it makes a lot of sense to probably break it up and put it out in single issues, because there's a lot of people who will try it as a single that won't try it as a graphic novel.
Sure.
So, and then I'm a comic book collector. You know, I don't collect trades. I collect single issues. So there's just that, you know, part of me that wants that to always be the case. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. 22 of those suckers.
Nice. What have you mainly collected?
My 12-year-old doesn't walk in on me.
Okay.
He likes to come in and become part of the show if I don't keep him out. So.
Yeah, my dog's scratching at the door here too. What do you collect mostly?
You know, I was always the DC guy growing up, but I'm all over the board now. I'm finding more today a lot of indie stuff. My local comic shop guy, who was doing curbside service and announcing he was going to keep that up until Diamond shut him down yesterday.
Yeah. What's the store?
Cosmic Comics in Belleville, Illinois. In fact, for people catching the replay on this, Thursday night at 7 p.m., I'm going to have Dave Dyer from Cosmic Comics on, and Michael Tierney, Overstreet contributor and proprietor of the comic store in Little Rock, Arkansas, will both be on, and we're going to be talking about the hit that, you know, the stores are taking and how they're going to cope with it, what their plans are for continuing business when business is allowed to continue. So tune in for that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just sort of dumbfounded. I don't know what to think. I just, obviously we all got to stay safe, and there's bigger problems right now, but you know, I, we got to protect our livelihood too. So we got to figure this out.
Now, as a publisher, of course, you do list in previews, so you do get shelf space from the stores that buy from
Mm.
Diamond and pick up your titles. But you have Hero Tomorrow that does the more direct line sell out to customers who purchase straight from the website, right?
Absolutely, yes. And I've been quarantined for over 14 days, so you will not be receiving any coronavirus in the mail. Just and there's a discount now. I think it's Roaring 2020s. It's right on the website, herotomorrow.com. So you get like 20% off anything you buy.
And we have that linked in the description below, everybody. So be sure
Thank you.
to click onto that and go into it. Also, in the description below, since we're talking about Spider Man like heroes with capabilities they're just learning about, it's the time in the broadcast where I have to remind people that criticalblast.com is also a publishing venture. And our first hardcover novel is a superhero young adult novel called Bulletproof Origins. It is by Stephen J. Mitchell and is available on Amazon. The link is also in the description below. At the bottom, Ted's stuff is at the top. He's the important guy tonight. This is a young adult novel about young Cody Haywood, who wakes up on his 16th birthday to find out that something his father did to him as a baby has now bloomed forth, to pay homage to the bloom title we were talking about. And Cody is now bulletproof. Living in a world of superheroes, he decides he's going to become one. Unfortunately, Cody has the attention span of a ferret on pixie sticks. So he's got a focus issue that his friends have to help him with if he's going to survive the terrorists who would like to dismantle him and find out what makes him bulletproof. So be sure
Sounds
to check
good.
that out.
Yeah.
And definitely hit up Hero Tomorrow for Tap Dance Killer. I had seen Apama. I'd either seen the movie or the comic book. I cannot remember which one it was. It's been 10 years.
Okay.
And I was working for a different review company back then called The Trades. We've been Critical Blast for the last 5 years now, and I still sometimes write The Trades down in my email addresses.
Okay. Yeah, that would have been the movie for sure if it was The Trades, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. And I don't know what happened to it because I have all the movies I've ever reviewed in a cabinet somewhere. But the movie, I'm guessing, is also available on herotomorrow.com.
That is true. We have a Blu-ray remastered, yeah. So or DVD.
Check that out. Get the entire collection. You will not be disappointed in any of these books, and you'll be even less disappointed if you get all of them and sit down and read them. You are quarantined. What better have you got to do? And really, this is like finding a long box at a yard sale full of late 1960s Spider-Man books by Lee and Ditko. The
Thank you very much.
Of the whole thing is you're very welcome, and it's very deserved. There is a reason, I'm sure, why all your fans got in and voted Tap Dance Killer to be, hey, look at that, best series of the year, Critical Blast. It's got our name on it. We did not make the decision. We simply listed a bunch of nominees, and the fans, you people who come by our website and visit us, made your choice. And we were more than happy to announce that because we agreed with you. We think it's the best series that came out that year too.
Thank you.
Ted, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show here. Is there anything else coming out from Hero Tomorrow that fans should be aware of, be looking for?
I just don't know when anything's coming out. I don't know when the next show will be. This was the first year I got into San Diego Comic-Con, and I hope that happens. But yeah, I would just say if you're on Facebook, Twitter, just Hero Tomorrow, please follow us. And if you just go to our website and click the Tap Dance Killer link, you'll hear that Tap Dance Killer song right away.
Fantastic. Definitely do that. And we will be back tomorrow with Sam Johnson. We'll be talking about her project on Indiegogo called Geek Girl. That's what I was going to ask you about. A lot of people are crowdfunding single issues these days on Indiegogo and Kickstarter. Obviously, you said you had a Kickstarter beginning for Apama, but have you looked at the way these campaigns are raising money now for funding to
Yeah, we actually did do a Kickstarter for Volume 2 of Apama and Tap Dance Killer Volume 1. So even though we had released the singles, through Diamond, we did do a Kickstarter where we were able to offer a lot of different kinds of things, CGC copies and shirts, all kinds of different combos, which really helps a ton, because our deal with Diamond is such that, or I should say, we sell enough that it pays for part of our print run basically, but we still have to make that up out on the show circuit,
Sure.
and the Kickstarter. Basically, when you can pay for your print run through Kickstarter, then you can go out into the shows and make money. That's been the model. So it'll be interesting to see if Kickstarter also needs to take a little. Maybe that'll be a good way to do this now that we're sort of stuck. But then again, do people have money? It's sort of the big question right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. Online's the way to do business, but everybody makes their money not online is the ones who spends it online. So
yeah,
it's going to be tough out there.
We will figure it out.
We will. All of us will together. We'll something new will come out of this that will stick around for a long time, I think. In the meantime, thank you for joining us. Glad to have you here, and can't wait to read Bloom when it becomes available.
Thank you, RJ.
Thank you, Ted. Everybody hit that link for Hero tomorrow. Do some shopping. We're out.
All right.